Everybody, I am going to do a video showing you how I create these patches, and this one I did have the adhesive placed on the back to make it iron on, but I always recommend that you stitch around the edges if possible. But I'm going to show you how I created these. Two different methods. You choose which one you like best. Let's go. What I am going to do, because this is not a applique, and if I was using an applique, it would be really easy because I would already have my placement line, tack down line, and the final stitch. But because this is just a design that was created so that I could just do a hot cut around the edges, I just want to show one of the two ways that I make this particular type of patch. This way is using the silhouette cameo so that I could cut around it really nice and neat. But what I've got to do first is I've got to create the actual cut lines or die lines so that it can be done. So I'm going to select my design, and I use Stitch Artist. I have level 3. I'm not sure which level the actual option to create an outline is in, but I'm going to select an outline, and then I'm going to go to the part where it says inflate. I want to select remove the holes because I don't want those holes in there. And then I'm only going to inflate by 0.1, because I don't need a whole lot of inflation. Then I'm going to hit OK. And so now with that outline, I am going to turn it into an actual line. And let's see here. What I want to make sure is that, yep, it's just that. I wanted to make sure that none of those little pieces in the middle were actually being saved as lines. So I'm just going to hit the back option so I could put it back where I need it to be. And then I'm going to change that color from yellow to a color that I could see better on this screen. And I like to go with a fluorescent. And let's see here. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to turn it into a line by hitting run. And that's just going to be that single stitch all the way around. And I will use this run as both my placement line as well as my die line for silhouette cameo so that I can create that cut going all the way around it. So now I am going to combine these two designs. Now I could do a color sort as long as all the colors are different, but just for the sake of not messing up, I'm going to do a combined design because that's one of the features that I have with the Stitch Artist 3. So I'm going to select both of them while I am in create mode. I'm going to hit create, design, combine designs. So now over here, everything is under one drop down. So I'm going to take that run and I'm going to move that to the first position because I need that to be the placement for when I'm on the machine. So now with that same run, I'm going to highlight just that one, and I'm going to hit that little box under the properties panel. I'm going to select that, and this is where you have your options to change the colors. Well, I don't want to change the colors. I want to hit this applique tab where it says not applique. I want to make this an applique position, and it's at 1 millimeter. That's where I want it to be at. And I'm going to hit save all. And then I am going to save this as, let's see, I'm going to put A18925 because that's today's date. And I'm going to hit save and just remember where you put it. That's on my desktop. And I clicked OK on the other thing so that it'll close. Now I'm going to go to Silhouette and I'm going to go to File, Merge. I'm going to find that A1 number. And sometimes it gives me extra stuff on this side that I don't need. And I just want to make sure I'm not cutting anything I don't need. Okay, so now I've got my cut line. I don't need this over here. So I'm just going to delete that. And now I am not going to inflate it anymore. I'm not going to reverse it. I'm not going to resize it, anything. I'm going to keep it exactly as I imported it because it's exactly the size that it needs to be to cut so that the design will fit on it. So I'm going to hit send. And for this, I am going to be using the thick canvas setting in my drop down here. It's already on thick fabric, thick canvas. My force is at 33. I'm doing a single pass. My speed is at 5. And I changed my blade depth to 7. You'll find, whatever your machine cuts best that you'll just want to adjust it to that. But I do a blade depth of 7. And so now it's ready to to cut. So I would hit send after I have my fabric or my twill on the mat and ready to go. And so that is that part. Okay, so this is the mat that I'm going to be using on the silhouette cameo, and I'm going to be using some poly twill. This is from Twill USA, and it comes in a roll. This is the roll that I buy, and you buy it by the yard. So this is the black sports twill with permanent heat seal adhesive on the back. I'm gonna say you really don't need to have it with the heat seal adhesive if you're going to be adding the heat seal after the stitches, but I get it with the heat seal on it because I find that for me it makes it easier for the machine to cut when I'm cutting these patches. And so I'm going to just use this piece right here. And my mat is not as sticky as it used to be, so I am going to use a little bit of tape to tape it in place to keep it from sliding. I'm just going to put a little over here and I'll wrap it under so it doesn't get caught. Put some over here just so that it's not sliding. And so now I'm going to actually put a piece up here too. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the silhouette cameo and we're going to get it cut. Okay, so this is the silhouette cameo 4+. It's the one that has 15 inches wide, but I'm only going to be using the 12-inch mat because I don't need 15 inches for this project. I'm going to load this and then I'm going to come back to my computer and I'm going to hit send, and it should cut it exactly how the outline is. Okay, let's see here. Yep, and it cut just along this outline here. And now this fabric does pick up the oils, and I've got lotion on my hands, so I'm gonna peel that tape off. But I've got lotion on my hands and it's probably causing a little bit of a grease mark right here. I don't even know if you can see that, but I see it. But anyways, now we've got this cut and we're gonna get ready to stitch it. So before we actually get ready to stitch, I did hoop 2 layers of the water soluble stabilizer. That's kind of the fabric like. Some places it's called Vilene, but different companies have the similar kind of stabilizer, but it is wash away. And I doubled it so that it'll hold up to all the stitches that it's gonna get. And so now we're ready to put the hoop onto the machine and we'll start this design. Okay, so we're over at the machine now and I placed a hoop on the machine. What I need to do now is actually go in and pull the design up. I do have it loaded to my flash drive, and let me turn this spotlight out. Maybe you'll see the screen better. But I'm just gonna hit that flower, and sometimes these flash drives work, sometimes they don't. But I'm going to go through, this is going to be at the very end. Let's see here, it's this one. And I always hit okay, yes. So the first stitch remember, that is not part of the design for real. So that's the placement line, and we're going to put a stop afterwards. I'm going to make that thread black, and I'm going to put that stop in, and then I'm going to assign the other colors. Now, I do have to come back over here to my computer so that I can look and see what's what, and I'm going to go through and assign the colors now. Let's see here. We're going to give her, oh no, that's that. Okay, number 2, we're going to make her back brown, and then we're going to make her hair black. And then let's see here. The hat, let's give her a red hat and dress. No, that's the earrings. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna, yellow earrings. Now the orange down here, color number 5, that's where I want it to be red. And then color number 6, those are her lips. We want those, we want her to have red lips too. So because of the way the Sai is set up, it will give me a stop between the red hat and the red lips, because it's gonna be like, hey, do you really want to have the same color stitched back to back like that? I guess that's what it's thinking, I don't know. But now we're gonna do the black outline, and then that stripe across the hat will make that white. Okay, so we'll do that. And the last project I did, I was measuring from the top. I'm going to measure from the center, or trace from the center. So we're going to come over here. I am going to hit set on the machine, and then I'm going to move the hoop so that that crosshair is at the center of the hoop there. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. Okay, and then I'm going to hit set again on the machine, and it's saying tracing is being executed. We're going to go ahead and trace to make sure it will fit inside that hoop. And it will fit. And so now we're going to go ahead and run that first stitch, which is going to be the placement stitch. Alrighty, and so now it gives me this green screen because that's a color stop that we put in there. So now I'm going to take this off of the machine for a moment. That's your placement line. I am going to come back over here, and I won't record this because I'm literally going to take the back of the patch, and I'm going to spray over the trash can some basting adhesive so that I can stick this down to it, okay? Okay, so this is the spray on the back of it, the adhesive spray, and I'm just going to take the patch and place it within those lines. So that it is lined up well. And I'm actually going to take this to the table and straighten this up because I don't do this very well in the air with one hand. Okay, let's see if we could get this in here. Okay, so I hope that will work. It's closely within those lines. I feel like I needed to go further up a little bit. Maybe I didn't need to inflate. So let's see here. Oh, I think it looked better the first time. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the machine and get this stitched out. Okay, let's see here. Gonna hit reset and then start, and it's gonna start stitching everything. And this is a little bit of a longer stitch out. So of course I'm not going to record the whole thing as it's stitching, but I will check back in. And it's still stitching pretty good. And she's still stitching along pretty good. We're almost to the end. Have about 4,500 stitches left. And so all it's doing now is stitching the black border around everything, and it'll stitch, you know, the black lines to detail the arms and everything. And then it's going to stitch the white band and we'll be done. Okay, so it is finished stitching and this is how it looks. So I will go through and, well, I'll cut it from the stabilizer and rinse the rest of it off. And then any edges that didn't quite get captured by the threads, like right here, there's a little bit of brown that shows through. I'll just hit those edges with a lighter. And this is what the back looks like. So I'll get that cleaned up and we'll be back. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's wet right now, but I just rinsed the stabilizer off of it. And when it dries, I will go through, I'll just hit the edges with a lighter to get rid of those fray ends. And you can see like that right there, that little crevice right in there. That would have been a little difficult to get some scissors in there for me anyways. But anyways, I will do that. And while this is drying, I am going to do another patch, same patch, different color threads, and a slightly different technique. Okay, so for the second patch that I'm going to do, I'm going to use the original patch design without that extra die line for a placement because I'm not going to need it. So I am going to hoop 2 layers of water soluble stabilizer, and the twill, I'm just going to go ahead and hoop the patch twill or poly twill right now. And I'm going to trim the excess stabilizer, and I do want to make sure that this is a little bit tight and not bubbled is what I mean. And so I'm literally just going to stitch this right here in the hoop. No placement lines, no pre-cutting or anything. We're going to stitch everything out and then we'll trim afterwards. Okay, so we are at the machine, and instead of hitting sew again, we're going to say no, we're not going to sew again, because what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to get the original design that does not have the die line. And I'm going to assign different colors to this one as far as the dress is concerned. So we'll keep her brown skin, and of course you can make your skin tone whatever color you need it to be. And then I'm going to do black hair. The earrings, I'm going to keep those gold. Now the dress, I'm going to use number 1, and in here it looks like it's going to be purple, but I have blue thread on my number 1 needle, so it's going to be a blue dress. Then we're going to do red lips, we're going to do a black outline, and then we're going to do we'll go ahead and do a gold band around the hat. Okay, and so now my colors are set, and it should be in the same, it's in the center, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to say yes to trace. And I do always trace before I start stitching, just because when I first started using Mighty Hoops, I did hit the hoop, and I replaced a few pressure feet because I hit the hoops. So I always trace on both of my machines. And so now it fits. We're going to hit start, and this will literally just stitch completely through. There's no interruption, and then when it's done, we'll trim it. I'll go ahead and let this stitch out for a while, and I'll check back in. And she's still stitching along just fine. Alrighty, so it is all stitched out, and this is how it looks. And so what I'm going to do now is of course I'm going to take it out of the hoop, and I'm just going to trim around the edges as closely as possible to get it cut out. Kicking the camera. Okay, so let's get this off of the hoop. And I'm just going to trim around that border as close as possible. Let's see here. I'm gonna get rid of some of this bulk first, because I think getting rid of some of the bulk will definitely make it easier. Okay, and let's see, now I'm just going to go through and cut as close as I can to that edge without actually cutting the edge. And I'm not going to worry about whether or not it's super neat or not, because I'm still gonna hit the edge of that with a lighter to smooth it out and to make sure everything is sealed up. And of course the water soluble on the back, I do still rinse that off. Okay, sometimes I find myself holding my breath when I get close to some of these spots where I feel like I'm going to cut right through. And see, now that little divot in there. I'll show you in a second here. But I think, you know, if you watched the earlier part of the video, you know where I'm talking about, where it goes in right here, where her hair is. That is gonna be a little difficult. So this is where using the cutter to cut it out makes it easier. Okay. And I'm gonna find my smaller scissors. Well, no, you know what? I was gonna find my smaller scissors, but that actually trimmed pretty decently. And so now I'll go through the edges and look. Don't try this at home if you've not done this before. You might just wanna stick with just cutting real close. But I'm gonna go through with the lighter, and I'm just gonna go through the edges to get everything as close as possible. And I do rub down the side just to kind of smooth it out, because that twill actually melts. And that will allow you to get a nice smooth edge around the edge. And now I truly only use this technique if I have a border that's gonna be black, because the lighter will scorch a little bit if you're not careful, like it did right here. And if you had a different color border, that scorch will show up on the front as well. So I'm just gonna go through and get that cleaned up, or melt it down, however you want to look at it. And then for that piece where her hair is, and it just kind of allows you to smooth everything out. Okay, so that is this patch. And I will put the heat applied adhesive on the back that I also get from Twill USA. And I don't have the label on it, but it's just a heat applied adhesive that I'll cut a piece out to match up the shape. Press it on, follow the directions that come with it, and your patch will be done. But what I'm gonna do first is, because there is some water soluble stabilizer in there, I know that a lot of people say it doesn't make a difference, but I like to rinse it out just so that I know that it's not stuck up in there. So I'll rinse it, let it dry, and then I'll be back. Alrighty, so I am back, and I did not apply the heat applied adhesive yet, but I was just looking at these, and this is the second patch that I did, and it's got the nice border. It looks nice and neat all the way around. And this is the one that I did the pre-cut, and it didn't line up as well, and I still have some fuzzy, so I don't know what that's about. It usually doesn't happen like that when I do a pre-cut. But anyways, I am liking this method a whole lot better, where I stitched everything in the hoop on the twill, and then I trimmed, and then I just hit the edges with the lighter to get everything nice and smooth. Because even though I hit the edges with this with the lighter, there were still some pieces that did not do too great. And so I don't know, probably my error, just trying to show too much at one time. I don't know. But anyways, this is how they came out. I will put the heat applied adhesive on the back. And this is not a design that is available for sale as far as the design. If you're interested in a patch, I will link my Etsy shop where they'll be at. But the design itself, I had this digitized specifically for me after reaching out to the creator of the SVG file to get permission to actually have the design digitized into a embroidery file. Because you don't want to just take somebody's SVG and flip it to a design that you're going to be using. Even though I'm not selling the design itself, that was part of the agreement, was that, okay, I'm going to have this digitized into an embroidery design, but I will not sell the actual file. So anyways, that's that. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. But until next time, you all keep taking care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.